been saving the day for decades, but not every foe is a household name. Grotesk was once a prince that lived in the underground realm of Subterranea. He is also so hard to kill. His first big fight that we got to see was against the X-Men. Grotesk was the last living member of his kingdom. An earthquake caused by Dr. Hunt destroyed the underground civilization, and of course, one survivor remained, Grotesk. He rightfully guessed that the above world caused the earthquake and came up to avenge his people. He learned of the earthquake machine and decided to use that to destroy the above world. He confronts the X-Men, and the X-Men defeat him because Professor X used his mental power to stop the machine. Frustrated, Grotesk slammed himself into the machine to get it to work again, but that actually caused it to explode. The X-Men thought that the explosion killed him and Professor X. They were wrong. Professor X wasn't actually there. It was actually Changeling that had been pretending to be Professor X under Professor X's command, and well, Grotesk just can't die, so he went on to fight Miss Marvel. She also hit him with something that should have killed him. He survived and fought the Avengers, and then later Thor. In the Thor brawl, there was again a large energy blast that should have killed him, but didn't. Not really. His body was gone, but his spirit remained. His loyal captive followers, the Lava Men, took that spirit and put it in an impenetrable armor, and he went on to fight the X-Men again, this time in San Francisco. Nightcrawler found the cheat code to defeat Spirit Armor Grotesk. He took off his helmet. His spirit was released from the suit and dissolved. With his track record though, I wouldn't be surprised if Grotesk appeared alive in a few years. Pretty Boy is more than just a punk pretty face. He has some pretty cool cybernetic implants that can expand to be 3 times their length. If you don't think he is pretty cool, he can just use his mind control powers to fix that. He gets access to a person's brain using these fiber optic filaments in his eyes. Then he kind of reprograms you. Pretty Boy is known for his affiliation with Donald Pierce. He was a member of the mercenary group Pierce created called the Reavers. While on this team, he passed away for the first time. Big moment in every Marvel character's journey, but like most Marvel heroes and villains, his death did not stick and he was soon back in action. The second passing happened under the leadership of Deathstrike, and he was put 6 feet under by Logan, but again it didn't stick and the guy was back in action brawling against the X-Men. Eventually, by the end of the battle with the X-Men, he was arrested. The character debuted in 1988's Uncanny X-Men 229. A bonus story in Marvel Tales Volume 2, issue 262, featured the X-Men sparring against a pretty interesting group. They were known as the Desert Dwellers. Their leader was Sunstroke. He claimed he was created when a man's sense of strategy was melded with the power of the Daystar. I'm assuming the Daystar is the sun. Combining with the sun in this case gave Sunstroke the ability to create and absorb light and heat. The creation of the heat also allows the guy to fly. Sunstroke, like the X-Men, fights with a team, the Desert Dwellers. We'll actually get more into one member in a later video, but for now, there are 3 other things on the team. I say things, not people, because they were a cactus, stone, and lizard made into humanoid villain versions of themselves. Squadcles. The Desert Dwellers fought the X-Men when the X-Men were traveling through the desert. The Desert Dwellers attack the X-Men, but they don't actually care that they attack the X-Men flying plane. They just have been taking down flights for supplies. It's in this fight we learn that Sunstroke needs the sun to activate his powers, so Storm creating clouds made him almost fall from the sky. Honestly, the Desert Dwellers are doing a pretty good job. Wolverine gets chucked into a mountain at one point, but the day is saved when Banshee shows up, screams, and the Desert Dwellers can't handle it, so they retreat. Collective Man is just so interesting to me. The villain is actually 5 people merged into one, specifically 5 brothers from China. When they merge together, they apparently gain a connection to everyone in China. You heard that right. Everybody. The connection allows Collective Man, as the brother mashup is called, to draw on power from any Chinese person they want. Drawing on 10,000 people one time gave the Collective Man enough strength to handle Sasquatch. It's not all sunshine and rainbows though. The brothers almost died from absorbing too many people's life forces at one time. I think that's karma right there. The brothers also have another very odd ability. They can make any Chinese person a clone of a brother and then merge with them. They have a hive mind, meaning they can mentally speak to just each other, but if they want to speak the old-fashioned way but are a few miles away from each other, they can just teleport to wherever their brother happens to be. It turns out you may need to prepare for trouble, make it double, as there are no rules when it comes to combining. You don't have to be like 5 brothers in one, you can go 2 brothers together, 3 brothers together, 4, 1, it doesn't matter. You can get different size of the villain persona. The brothers fought the X-Men when the X-Men were in town to look into Zorn. The 5 made it very hard to do so, as they created an army of themselves to attack the X-Men. I just can't believe the brothers merged together and are able to then call on the power of all of China. Okay, so in the Marvel Universe there is Man-Ape, that is M'Baku, but this ain't about him, even though he is more popular. We are looking at Ape Man, and also briefly touching on the concept of the Ani-Men. So Ape Man was a human, Gordon Kiefer, that dressed in an ape suit. He had a pretty iconic start to his career. He tried to rob Stark Industries, obviously failed, and went to jail. But his ape thing worked in his favor. Criminal mastermind, the organizer, was starting something called the Ani-Men, a team made up of other animal or insect-themed villains. Ape Man was a natural fit for the squad, and so Catman, also a team member, broke him out of jail. There have been many Ani-Men, but the team that started it off and surrounded Ape Man was him, Catman, Frogman, and Birdman. They fought against the X-Men in X-Men 94. The Ani-Men showed up to take over a military base, and the X-Men said nope. It's in this comic that it's shown that Count Nefaria did some experimentation on the Ani-Men to make them more like their animal counterparts and significantly less human. Ape Man becomes way stronger than he used to be. The fight with the X-Men doesn't go well for the heroes at first. The reason? They're too tired. The X-Men get it together though, and in the process, Ape Man gets to experience Storm's power firsthand. The X-Men do come out on top, which really isn't shocking in the slightest. Ape Man does meet his end eventually due to an explosion. Bloody Bess, she is a queen, she is mother, she deserves attention. She is a pirate, and currently little is known about her past. Her present is a different story. The woman is a pirate. She is part of the Crimson Pirates. The Crimson Pirates and the X-Men first went mutant abilities to Sword when the pirates were temporary allies with Goth, a shifty guy involved with unethical trading. The allies assisted with releasing someone that really should have stayed in X-Men custody. The X-Men ended up fighting the allies, and of course Bloody Bess and the X-Men were winning, but there was some possession involved and the X-Men were captured. Bloody Bess was in charge of keeping that section of the team in check. The team was taken to this market, and then things went south from there for the pirates. Goth was no more by the end of the battle, and Bess, along with the other pirates, fled. The Crimson Pirates stuck together and worked as kind of like mercs for hire. Bloody Bess, as a pirate, is very good at sword fighting, but she also has telepathic powers. She once tried to use the powers to connect with Omega Black for an assignment, but instead let the Shadow King loose. The king possessed her fellow pirates and they attacked her. She called to Nightcrawler for help. They had a little thing going on. He arrived, the X-Men arrived, the X-Men also then got possessed, and Nightcrawler and Bess had to fight together to save the day. Last we know of Bloody Bess, she has dedicated her days to finding her old pirate friends. All in all, a very cool character on a cool team, and yet she has less than 10 appearances. She debuted in the year 2000, and her last appearance was in 2015, so hopefully she gets picked back up soon. Back when Hank McCoy, Beast, was being recruited by Professor X to join the X-Men, there was another guy who wanted to get Beast on his side. His name was Orlando Furio, and he wanted to conquer the world. He wanted Hank on his side so bad, he kidnapped him and his parents. He used Hank's parents as leverage to get Hank to steal a mini energy reactor. The reactor was used to power a machine that was designed to create global disasters. The good news is the X-Men eventually arrived and made sure the machine would never even once be used, and they freed Hank and his parents. The machine exploded, and the guy, Conquistador, was caught in the destruction and presumably also exploded. He really committed to the bit though, the Conquistador. He carries around a sword designed to look like what the actual Conquistadors would have had. It splits into a 3-pronged stun weapon that really hurts if its blast is directed at you. Not only does he dress like a Conquistador, but he managed to find a bunch of other people that were also willing to dress like Conquistadors to be his henchmen. He operates out of a building that was either from that time or built in that fashion. No one is doing it like him anymore. Bring back villains that had a theme and stuck to it like it was on sale at Party City. Honestly, I don't want to see any more villains that just wear all black and have pointy faces. I want camp, I want drama, and I want people to have a brand. So this next guy, his name is Thug, and that's what he is. He looks like a robot cowboy that has seen better days. Thug made a name for himself in the comics as part of Loeb's team. Loeb was very interested in the science behind humans turning into mutants even though they were born with no X gene. Thug assisted in Scalp Hunter's capture and along the way fought various X-Men. He came head to head with the X-Men again later during the Experience Substance promotional gala. Thug is not a mutant, he is a human cyborg. He had been working close to John Sublime and received cybernetic enhancements from him. Their purpose was to mimic mutant powers. They made him very hard to hurt. He was resistant to most attacks pain-wise, but you can clearly hurt the guy if the array of scars on him or anything to go off of. Probably the most interesting thing to me that would be just so useful when in a fight is the fact that Loeb was able to download info about the X-Men, who they are and how they fight, into his brain. He downloaded that into Thug, so Thug had a better chance at fighting them. Very cool. This Thug debuted in Uncanny X-Men 515 in 2009, but there are other Thug characters. They are green and they have no correlation to 616 Thug. The villain El Tigre debuted in X-Men 25 in 1966. His human name is Juan Moros, and he was a treasure hunter. Specifically, he focused on treasures from the ancient world. He is a menace. That is literally what he is described as on the cover of his debut comic. In that comic, he finds an amulet that belonged to the Mayan sky god. It gives him an array of powers like telepathy, telekinesis, and something called precognition, knowing if danger is coming or near. El Tigre with all these powers only exists when he has part of the sky god's amulet. When both pieces are put together, he just turns into the sky god. X-Men issue 25 explains this whole journey. In issue 26, we see a fight between the X-Men and El Tigre, with the X-Men trying to get the amulet off. They do, of course, succeed, and El Tigre is back to himself again and arrested. He later reappears to fight off against Khazar in issues 3, 4, and 5 of Volume 2, but issue 5 is where El Tigre has met his match in the form of the Mystic Mist. The mist causes him to evolve to the state of death, and he falls off a cliff. We do see a very old, very still body, so I think it's safe to say El Tigre is permanently resting. But you never know. The Neo race is made of super mutants, and we are looking at super mutant Salvo. He was part of the Neo war clan that brawled with the X-Men. It happened toward the beginning of the war between humans and mutants. The war kicked off when all the mutant powers were removed by the High Evolutionary, but you probably know that already. He survived the scrap with the X-Men. He didn't survive Magneto. He tried to attack him. He was torn apart. Why did Salvo attack the Master of Magnetism, one of the most powerful mutants? I don't know. If I were made of solid metal, which is what Salvo is made of, I simply would not have done that. I have a lot of questions about this guy. One thing about Salvo is the metal. He can turn into like guns on his arms, and he draws the ammo from his body. But if he does that, would he eventually disappear? I have to wonder, because I imagine the only thing he has to draw from himself is himself. Is he just shooting pieces of himself? And would said ammo stay as metal forever, or would you be left with toes on the ground? I feel like these are valid questions, but would this mean he has a very powerful healing factor if he were to regenerate every atom he's lost in a fight? Lots of questions for a character that I will probably never see again. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and make your mark on the comment section down below. Let me know which X-Men villain you think is criminally underrated. This is Juliana signing off. Bye!